All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session today. This session is called Year of Empathy, Important Customer Experience Lessons Learned. And I'm very excited to have you here. I think that really this year was over a year, was a year where a lot of us kind of learned a lot about ourselves, a lot about managing teams, a lot about the banking and financial industry, and certainly a lot about our prospects, our members, and our customers. And so I'm very pleased today to be joined by two folks who are going to be able to answer some of the questions that we've prepared for them with regards to how their organizations have actually digitally transformed to help their audience members, their customers, their members make it through this COVID-19 pandemic and still experience a fabulous customer experience. So I'd like to pass it over first to Rich. Rich, would you mind giving us a quick introduction as to who you are?
Of course, Elissa, thanks. Richard Dorfman here. I run customer experience at Eastern Bank, about a 16 billion now asset bank in the greater Boston area. And I've been doing that about a dozen years.
Wonderful, thank you. And Amanda.
Hi, Amanda Flashner. I am the Senior Vice President at LendingPoint. We are a national online fintech platform. I am responsible for ensuring that every interaction with our customers feels like a hug, as well as being the customer advocate internally.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. So my name is Elissa Riddell. I am head of marketing at Coconut Software, and it's good. It was actually going to be a true test of the audience empathy. I almost had to have my 3-month-old baby strapped to my chest in a baby Bjorn for this webinar. So luckily, last minute, that didn't have to happen. Otherwise, that would have been a true test of everyone's patience. So fantastic. Super glad that we could have you both on the line today. So I guess to sort of kick us off in case people in the audience aren't familiar. Amanda, would you mind kind of telling us about why does your organization exist and what really is that driving force that powers your efforts, the reason to get up out of bed every day?
Great question. Well, as a fintech lending platform, our product is money, which doesn't really have a lot of feeling towards it. But the way that we look at it is we're in the business of people. We're in the business of providing possibilities and opportunities to our cohorts. We are a full spectrum credit lender. So we go all the way from 850 to 580. And they are really the reasons why we exist. And that's really the foundation of who we are. As you know, this last year was really put to the test, right? If you're really going to be there for people and you really exist for people, well, how do you do that in the moment of global chaos? I'm excited to talk about that a little bit more with the group.
Fantastic. And Rich?
Well, it is a great question. And building off of what Amanda said, it's a question I often ask every day within my organization, because it really is the existential question, right? And it gets people focused on why you are here. What are you here to do? What's your greater purpose? And that purpose has been around at Eastern Bank for now 203 years. We started our organization in banking when it wasn't a democratized way of doing business. Our very first customer was a woman, Rebecca Sutton, when women were not allowed to open an account, right? But our bank found that niche to help people that weren't being helped by the traditional means. And that philosophy has transcended our 2-century plus existence. And it really just goes to show how we serve people, how we serve our community, and how we serve one another as colleagues. In fact, we've rebranded our theme around good. I know we're going to talk about good in this conversation. And our tagline, if you will, is we do good things to help people prosper, to remind all of us, as well as our customers and our community, that that's why we are in business. And we philosophize and action around all of that doing good, because doing good helps us do well, and all of us do well.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you. And it's so great that it's just built into Eastern Bank's DNA pretty much right from the first customer you've had, really making sure that those folks that deserve and need the help are getting it. That's fantastic. So moving on to the next question. I think a lot of us in the industry have kind of known that building loyalty with your base of members, your base of customers is very important. And if you treat people really well, that helps with loyalty, but that also helps with the bottom line, frankly. When folks are feeling like they have a good emotional connection to a brand, a bank, a financial institution, they tend to spend more money, there's a greater share of wallet, they tend to stay for longer. So I guess my question, maybe we'll start with you, Rich, on this one. How have you found that these kind of deposits into the bank of good, so all the things that you and Eastern Bank are kind of doing in your community, the fundraising, the foundational work, how has that really helped to drive loyalty within your existing base?
It's a good turn of phrase, the bank of good. You mean you do get credit for doing consecutive years of good, building loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
But an amazing statistic that I heard now many times over is you can spend a couple of decades with customers building that loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
It takes really one terrible interaction to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about the fact that you're doing good and helping them succeed. It's about doing it consistently. And that's what we have learned, right? It's not just the smile. It's not just the helpfulness, although human behaviors like that are very fundamental and what really drives the emotional connection. And that's so important because, as Amanda talks about, this is a people business. It is people's money and their financial livelihood, but it is about connections and human emotion. But it's also about making it easier for them to do business with you. I mean, there's no shortage of competition in financial services. And in order for you to be the financial institution of choice, you have to stand out, not just on that human to human interaction. You have to get the processes right. You have to remove the friction points that get in the way of satisfied interactions and transactions. So it's the little things that have to be looked at, understood, fixed, and communicated so that you have this ecosystem of continual improvement. So the combination of the smiley face, the empathetic feel, the understanding of what our customers need, that year of empathy as we're talking about, has to be balanced with all the day in and day out stuff that has to work. And things are constantly in motion. Take a pandemic, for example, and I know we'll talk about that, where it throws a wrench into the works of things that have been working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so pivoting over to you, Amanda, I know that LendingPoint does a lot in terms of empowering their employees to decide not only in kind of the day-to-day operations and processes how to best help your customers, but also into their communities. So could you talk a little bit about that, how that builds loyalty?
Yeah, absolutely. We believe here that customer experience is only as good as your employee experience, and those two things are absolutely go hand in hand. We've always been a company of empowerment, right? Whether it be the power of possibilities and empowering our customers to do more with what they have and get more of the financial information that they need to be the best stewards of their financial selves. But then we also really empower our employees. We have a very clear policy of no jerks allowed, right? That kind of goes into our DNA of how we hire people. And we really look for people who want to do good in their community and want to do good every single day. I mean, when we have this onboarding, and one of the things we always say during our onboarding is, this is a job where you actually get to make a true impact in someone's lives, and that person's going to be able to call you, and they do call you, and they tell you 2 years later, hey, that thing that you did for me 2 years ago, you gave me a lifeline that no one else did. And now I'm in a better place, and I will forever remember you. That goes into the empowerment of how our employees actually deal day to day with our customers. But then also on the back end, our employees are just very giving. They love to be a part of our community. We are in the Metro Atlanta area. We love the Metro Atlanta area. They've been so great to us. It's a great place to do business, and we really encourage our employees and support them in their efforts to do what we call grassroots community involvement. We do like to see that immediate impact, and that's something that they are able to do.
Amazing.
Yeah, building off of that, our organization is deeply grounded into the community. We've contributed over $100 million through our foundation over the years, giving back into the nonprofits that are the lifeblood of our community. Collectively, our employees have put in over 500,000 volunteer hours in the past 25 plus years So it really is important to get your entire employee and corporate muscles flexed in helping all those around you. It's all an ecosystem. And to the extent that everyone wins, it creates that loyalty impact that creates, that's an organization I want to be part of. And that promoter aspect, you want to be part of an organization that gives back, that understands, that creates that connection point. Because, in this day and age, people need help. And they're looking for organizations to do that. So being out there and helpful is so important.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. One of the things that's really important to us at Coconut Software is very similarly, getting into the community and giving back. And one of the things that we like to say, especially when we're recruiting for new employees, is happy people build great solutions. And I think that makes a huge difference. If your employees feel like they have power, that their managers, that leadership team understands what they're going through, especially, the pandemic didn't just affect all of our customers and prospects, it also affected us as people, as employees. So it's fabulous to hear that both your organizations are putting such a huge emphasis on that. I think that could be a webinar, honestly, all in itself, how to keep your staff engaged during a pandemic. So
For
maybe
sure.
Noted, next webinar. Okay, so Amanda, any customer or member feedback that you got or your team received during the pandemic that really surprised the team? Anything that kind of came out of left field?
I think, during the pandemic, what it provided an opportunity for everybody, right? We have not been in business for 200 years, like Eastern Bank. We've only been in business since 2014. We were founded in 2015. Our platform went to market. So we're still relatively young. And it really allowed us to look at, did everything we've been doing for the last 5 years really come to fruition? The culture that we were trying to build, the people that we were hiring. I was happy to say that it came to fruition, right? I always, you can't fake empathy. You can try and hire for it, but you just can't fake it. And I think the things that surprised me the most was the way our team really came together to support each other. In this moment of a global pandemic, it wasn't just like you mentioned, it wasn't just our customers that were terrified. It was our employees too. And what was heartwarming, and then again, like I look back, I'm like, why was I so surprised at that? This is what we hired for. This is what they do. Our team really came together. We're a call center. We are not a company that is typically a virtual company. We did go virtual a few weeks prior to the rest of the country being shut down. So we did take those steps to get our employees safe and comfortable starting to work from home because we knew it was coming. But what we didn't know is the disruption, not just globally and economically and for our customers, but also for our employees. We had employees who all of a sudden became moms, dads, teachers, caregivers. And so how do we provide the support to them? And what I found was that our employees did it on their own. I think that was the most surprising, is that our employees stepped up to help each other by saying, hey, I know you have to do virtual learning for a couple hours a day. How about I step into your role at that time? You go do that, and we'll just kind of make some shifts. That way our customers were still supported. Our employees were able to help each other, and they really just kind of came together. Again, I'm not really sure why I was so surprised. It was just more heartwarming. And then we have these, just the great moments of the fact that we were able to step in for our customers who were going through a life-changing event, and they were also terrified, and really being able to step in. We had an ability as companies to say, are we going to just do the bare minimum? Are we going to go in the deep end and really, really, really do what we need to do for our customers? And LendingPoint really took the stance of we're all in, we're going in, we're going to get in deep with them, and we're going to help them. We're going to fix it. We're going to give them the relief that they want. And, we talked a little about loyalty, and then putting the good back in the bank deposits, right? What we found was, a lot of people always talk about the ROI of this, and, in the long run, how do you measure ROI? I can tell you how you measure ROI, right? We did the right thing by our customers. Quarter one of this year was the first time it's ever reached this high. 24% of our growth came from existing customers, right there. And that was just a measurement of, we did it right, and we were rewarded for it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Rich, what are your thoughts?
surprising to me was just the adaptability of humans. I mean, just unbelievable. Building off of what Amanda said, like not just our humans that work for us, but the humans that bank with us. And on that latter point, that customers were thrown a lot of curveballs in the past year plus, right? No fault of our own, but COVID caused a lot of disruption. Branches closed, the call center exploded, people had to go to digital channels that they weren't used to. So every part of our organization was under stress. And the customers, as much as we were helping them, when branches were closed for a period of time or needed to go through appointment setting to get into the branch, and the line waits were long and everything just became bottlenecked. And our customers adapted, right? They said, okay, well, let me use that online and mobile banking app that I haven't used before. And sure, it caused more stress for the call center to help me log on and stuff, but it accelerated our digital transformation that much more quickly. People said, oh, this is pretty cool. It's easy. I can actually do balance transfers myself without having to walk into a branch or even call the call center agent. So our customers, many of them who are older demographic, figured out kind of the new way of banking, right? So that was great. And our employees, just by virtue of who they are, just stepped up and went beyond normal. Like, for example, closing of branches of walk-in caused more drive-up traffic. We are sometimes around the block because those were open and was more safe to do banking that way. So with the lines of those cars, our branch staff in the branch where there were less people in it would walk out and actually do banking for the customers right at the window, just like you would drive up to a Chick-fil-A and they would take your order right out in the drive-up window, right? So there was no manual for this. People just figured it out. Mm-hmm. And what resulted from all of this was, this past year, we just got our JD Power scores back, and our scores, which were always very good, we were always, number one or number two in the New England region, our scores shot up because of all of this empathy and all of this caring and all of this adaptability, that we're now the number 6 bank in the entire country and not too far from number 1. It just reflective of just the team effort and the human spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I wish that Coconut had chatted to you guys before everything blew up, but I'm sure we'll have some conversations after. So that's actually a great segue into my next question about digital transformation. And so one of the things that we at Coconut have been doing a lot of research, a lot of discussions on, is how quickly the pandemic became this catalyst for change, that everyone in the banking financial institution industry realized that yes, digitization is happening. People are getting more comfortable using, tools online on their phone, etc. But now all of a sudden with a state or here in Canada, provincial mandates to shut down, it's kind of like overnight, oh, we have to digitally transform now. So I guess, Rich, just to follow up on some of your points you made earlier, how has digital transformation at Eastern Bank changed because of the pandemic? In spite of the pandemic, what is sort of your plan specifically looking at customer experience?
This is a topic that should be its own panel. It's big and it's ongoing, and every organization is going through it. But let me give you a little example of that. Like I mentioned, the call center, where my role reports up into, really was at the center of the storm of all of this. Any big change, that is where it is felt. So in the midst of the pandemic, we were launching brand new software, going from an on-premises to a cloud-based, contact center software. So that was a big deal in and of itself, on top of which, the agents had to leave from the on-premises to take their laptops home and do seamlessly work with the customers from their own home. And part of that transformation was doing chatbots with artificial intelligence. That's a small piece of this question, right? But it's just a good example. After launching of this chatbot and iterating its idea, where we were hoping to get 10 or 12% of the questions that would normally come to an agent handled by a bot, we found that almost 20% of the questions were fully handled by that bot, offloading a lot of volume into the branch, into the call center. And that fully, it reduced our call handling time by a full third. So again, those easy to inform and complete a satisfactory experience by, machine learning was able to help the more complex questions get more time by the agents who had the wherewithal and the skill set to handle that. And also for about appointment setting, because we didn't have your software at the time, right? It streamlined just, I need to get to this branch on this date at this time. And so that bot allowed the automation of that without having to take on to the human who would then spend more time. So that's just one example of digitally transforming the operation, which is now enabling more parts of the organization say, wow, that worked really cool for your area. Maybe we can apply that to our business and commercial loan process, or an insurance agency too. Maybe with the insurance group can maybe handle some claims that way. It just opened up the doors with possibility to understand the intersection, the best use of technology and human, and which part works best. It really is a work in progress, but it accelerated our learning tremendously through this time period.
Fantastic. Amanda, what do you think from LendingPoint's perspective?
Rich, I'm really glad to hear that we are not the only crazy people who launched something in the middle of COVID. In April of last year, we ended up, we were in the middle of actually upgrading our call center software as well. And we were like, we got to do it now, because this is gonna, we would be toast without it. So we did go forth with it, and thankfully everything went well. But I'm glad to hear we weren't the only crazy ones to do that.
Go big or go home. Am I right?
we're gonna break it. We're gonna break it all at once. All right. That's kind of how it works. But digital transformation is just kind of in the DNA of who we are, because we are an online fintech lending platform. So digital first has kind of always been who we are. But I will say this, what we saw was, we looked at April over April 2020, 68% of our interactions with our customers and our prospective customers started on mobile. By April of this year, that had spiked to 90%.
Wow.
Yeah. So 90%, I mean, our customers, what happened during COVID was it just accelerated adoption, like Rich was saying, where it was never going to be adopted. It may not have been adopted before. They may have been slow adopters. So slow adopters became have to adopt situations. So it did a lot of forced adoption. But what we've really been focusing in on is more of, very similar to what Rich was doing, just more of that self-service, right? Allowing our customers, whether it's 2 a.m. or it's 2 p.m., allowing them to interact with us and do what they need to do with us in more of a self-service way. And so we've been doubling down more on our mobile app and our self-service digitization. And I think there's just going to continue to be really important. We do have cohorts of our customers who do like to talk to us, and we love to talk to them as well. But we also like to provide them the option to do things self-service. So we're really doubling down on more of the self-service, figuring out where all of those 10 main things they need from us, and just making sure those are completely digitized in a way that is very, very easy for them. And like my role is, whether you're talking to us via a person or you're talking to us via a mobile app, I just want it to feel like a hug.
I love
the hug.
As long as, a nice socially distanced hug for now.
Right. Virtual hugs. It's a little weird to say that during COVID, I realize, but I still want people to feel like, we have that connection, virtual high five, whatever it may be.
Awesome. And so just a quick follow-up, perhaps for both of you, some of the digital native or the digital first behaviors that you're experiencing, do you think we've gotten to the point now that it's not just, okay, I have to do this, and now it's actually become a habit?
A habit sorry, go ahead, Rich.
Well, a habit is an interesting use of the word. I mean, COVID has been a long-standing event where a lot of people have got used to doing things for long periods of time. So to the extent that, it wasn't like a thunderstorm where it comes and it goes, you have to deal with change over a long period of time. So if you're now going and using that mobile app and it's saying, oh, this isn't too bad. And, the branch is still a long way away and it's not open and convenient. The call center is still a 20-minute wait. This wasn't so bad. So it becomes habitual.
Mhm.
And to the extent, change is not always easy, but over time it becomes more familiar. So I think half the battle is really getting our customers to understand that there are other options to self-serve or do your business done differently and perhaps more efficiently. And since it's happened over and over again, I think we have seen a greater migration. For example, our online and mobile banking usage has literally doubled in a year.
Mhm.
I mean, it was pretty decent to begin with, but now we have 2 or so million interactions a month just on our mobile app, unique customer interactions. So it's a lot. And our mobile app is constantly being upgraded and developed through feedback that we're getting. We do digital intercepts, for example, to understand the nuances of the user experience. So that continuous virtual loop is helping get people happier and more satisfied with their digital transformation. So all of that has accelerated over the past year.
Gotcha. Excellent.
Yeah, I think, Rich, I think you're right. I think this has just become table stakes.
Mhm.
I think companies that don't put the effort in and don't put the resource and investment in will be a little bit left behind. A really great example, I think, of a company that really was able to take their mobile app and figure out how to do a physical plus a digital interaction, and one is Target.
Mhm.
I think they did a wonderful job during COVID. And I think it's something that us and banking and finance can actually look at and take some takeaways from that, because, Target, listen, I'm a mom. Target's Target's a place I want to go sometimes to just get away. And you couldn't do that during COVID, but I still needed things from Target. So downloading their mobile app, utilizing it, and then still going to Target, even though they were just bringing it to your car. I think they did a really wonderful job. And I think you're going to continue to see that. Yes, you have to have the digital as a table stakes, but then how do you humanize it? And then how do you also bring a human element into it? Because, AI is definitely a great tool, especially with those chat bots. They've gotten so much better over the last year. They've learned a lot, even, they learned a lot over the last year as well. But there's still this human element potentially to it. And I think, as we continue through our digital transformation, it's just going to be something that we're going to constantly have to learn.
And knowing when to transition from digital, where it's a trouble spot, to a human. So if someone is on your site, on your app, and you're struggling, have the intelligence to say, a chat, looks like you're struggling. Can we help you with your issue? So that it becomes a seamless and that virtual hug feeling that, hey, you do get me, right? So it can't just be one or the other. It has to be that great combo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do have to say, my husband and I, we had to renegotiate our mortgage during the lockdown. And it was so nice to do that over video conference, as opposed to having to attempt to fandangle 2 small children into a car and, get everyone masks on when the kid wants to rip it off. And it was just, we were forced to do it because we had to, but, especially for myself as a millennial, like I'm coming to expect that. I only want to have to go to the branch when I truly need to go to the branch. But I think, to your point, it's really important to understand your customers, your prospects, your members well enough and ask them, do you want to do this online? Do you want to come in, and is it service by service? And I think that's where the use of technology is going to help financial institutions actually scale to that, so that people can be serviced in, what we call the channels of comfort, where it's most convenient for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Being conscientious of time, one last question. Amanda, we'll start with you. So we've talked about this in little bits and pieces, but maybe here's an opportunity to kind of close the loop entirely. Since employee experience is so important, building the empathy, if your employees are feeling well supported, they're going to provide just that extra level of service to your customers. What did you guys do to give your employees the kind of support that they needed to manage through the pandemic, especially as you mentioned that, the vast majority of them were working from home?
Short answer, whatever they needed. So I said, we went all in, and our employees who needed either time, resources, technology resources. We do live in Metro Atlanta. Just north is the mountains, and actually quite a few of our employees, they live up in the mountains. They did not have great Wi-Fi access. Lo and behold, they do now, because we made sure they got what they needed. So really, it was anything from just making sure they had the access to do the job that they needed, making sure they felt supported, to get the time that they needed as they were transitioning and trying to figure out how to navigate working from home, virtual learning, potentially becoming a caregiver to someone that they had never been a caregiver to before. And then just obviously the ongoing stress. The one thing that we really had to learn, because we're such a in an office open door policy, was how do you keep that connection? And our employees, just because of who they are, they had a lot of opinions. We just listened and we just did.
Amazing. Rich?
Yeah, ditto all of that. And then besides the creature comforts that we need to make them feel comfortable about all the technology that they needed, the internet access, the dual monitors, whatever, we doubled down on communication and listening. Because, interestingly, we now have a tighter, closer, more communicative, department in our customer service group, and many other departments same, where we're holding regular Zoom sessions. Whereas you are 5 feet away from them, maybe on site, you take that for granted sometimes. But now we have these regular opportunities to engage, where the tellers or the virtual bankers, they come in and share their feedback, and ideas come out of it. So for example, we learned in these employee roundtables, kind of free for all, we're struggling with fraud a lot. We're a bank, we're getting hit with it. So this got another idea going, exchange, we validated it. I led some focus groups around that. We learned that this is a big and growing problem, and we created a separate fraud squad that were specialists who were just handling this, because it's a very deep and complex issue, a time-consuming one. So we were creating this, microcosm unit because of an idea that an employee had in one of these roundtables. And now it's become part of an improved experience for not just the agent, but certainly for the customer. And we're now doing things like idea crowdsourcing. We're starting next week, for example, through a program we call Hatch, where we're putting a challenge out to our group and saying, how can we make a more efficient process about handling customer complaints or putting in service requests? Because everyone handles them and they're messy and somewhat. So we're getting all of these ideas coming in. We're going to vet them. We're going to crowdsource them. We're going to actually act on the top 1, 2, or 3 of them, and make sure that not only our voices of our customers and employees are heard, but certainly acted on. So that is what is going to empower them to contribute more, because tremendous intel around what goes on day to day. And we want to tap into that better. And this has given us new fuel for that.
Yeah, just a catalyst for the next one. Hopefully we don't have another pandemic anytime soon, but all these great structures and operational processes are going to just continue adding value. So we're at time. Sadly, I wish we had more time to discuss this, because I think that there's so much more to be said. But I do want to thank both Amanda and Rich. Thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we get to connect again in the very near future. All right.
Take care.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Take care.